Guys, he's not announced the captain. Can
Yeah,
we
yeah,
like
Yeah, we move
you
on.
are
No,
like
I'm just saying
I'll
why
just
DC may be looking at him very seriously, very closely,
yeah,
yeah.
with
So
the Nagraj Holmes magnifying
yeah,
glass.
yeah.
and a new cycle of the IPL, which sees 5 of the 10 teams have new captains. We know the identity of 4 of those 5, but who will lead Delhi Capitals in IPL 2025? Could it be KL Rahul? Could it be Axar Patel? Could it be Faf du Plessis? We discuss all of that. It's a big call for Delhi to take, and it's a big moment for me as I finally get to enter this league of extraordinary chattermen. So, Ronak, Dustin, Nagraj, thank you for allowing me into the chatterverse. Who is going to be Delhi Capitals captain? Nagraj, it has to be you starting from everything I've seen on this show.
I thought you're saying it has to be me. I can't be the capital of Delhi.
Who knows?
uh, no, let's say front runners in no particular order. Aksu Patel, Faf du Plessis, KL Rahul, you would
in
think.
no particular order.
So
Yes.
So,
Ronak,
so the fact that Axar Patel's name is mentioned, I think that's, and with whatever gossip is going around and whatever we picked up from where not, let's just, before we get there, the fact that Axar Patel is a viable captaincy contender in itself shows how much the guy has grown as an international cricketer. We are actually recording this at a time where India are going to play the Champions Trophy final in 24 hours. So that's the timing of this recording. So it's a nice time to appreciate how big Aksar's profile has gotten in international cricket, from being a regular in the T20 team, a regular in the ODI team, giving India the flexibility and balance of having an all-round option, and now in a captaincy conversation after being retained by Delhi. So I think hats off to Axar. The only unknown element is what's he like as a captain of an
yeah,
IPL team, managing senior internationals and pretty heavy and new support staff.
I mean, even before the auction, I remember when we were discussing kind of will Delhi be desperate for a captain in the auction. Even at that stage, Mr. Nagraj Holmes was saying, hey, Delhi may have another option for a captain.
Shut
So
up.
Nagraj was saying even then that, Delhi may not be so desperate for a captain in the auction. They might have somebody already in their list of retentions who they are okay with as captain. And it could be that, okay, Delhi didn't get Shreyas Iyer back. Maybe that was plan A, but without getting him, I
See,
think
remember
that
they came
I
very
mean,
close to Pant. Huh? They
yeah.
they played the RTM for Pant,
exactly.
and had
Yeah.
that happened, who knows? But they certainly
Yeah.
felt like after everything settled, perhaps Aksar is a better option than KL or a better option than Faf.
The only thing I'll say is that we have seen this story before of a left arm spin bowling all rounder taking over from wicketkeeper batter. But that's just a silly
Oh,
superstition thing.
Oh
you're
no.
giving your bits and pieces at
Mm.
why.
Yeah, but Nagraj, the point Ronak brings up, everything else speaks for Akshar Patel, but captaincy credentials, not had much experience as a captain. How much of a factor is that?
Yeah, there was a discussion pre-auction, like any team would think. What are my captaincy options? And Delhi was one of the teams because Rishabh Pant was not retained. While Rishabh Pant and Shreyas Iyer were the front runners at the auction table, and both players they did go for, they didn't get. They the in-house thought was also that I don't think we should saddle KL Rahul. If we get KL Rahul, we shouldn't be kind of saddling him with captaincy. We've seen enough of him. We want the batter, the KL Rahul. So, and we have an in-house guy in Axar who, if I'm sure there are lot of sharp listeners and fans of Delhi Capitals who will know that he is, I think, in the current Delhi Capital thing, he is the only guy who has been retained twice in the last 2 auctions. Since 2009, he has been playing for Capitals, and
He's the most
I
19.
valuable
I was
player.
Yeah.
Simple. I mean, he is the most
yeah
valuable player. Yeah.
yeah, and in terms of
He,
captaincy wise, what they feel is that look, the coaching staff can help him grow into a
Yeah.
leader. They want because
yeah.
it's a beginning of a cycle, and this is a player who know players also know very well, and he's a very good, easy to kind of get along character who kind of breaks everyone into a smile easily. He may not talk fluent English, but he can talk. So he knows how to kind of get players together. The one question mark will be the tactical part of it. What is Axar, the tactical captain on field, which is what he's going to be challenged by, and everyone of all of us is curious by. And I guess probably we should talk here the presence of someone they have in the form of Faf du Plessis. I think
Yeah.
Faf du Plessis will be an important player.
I know Dustin said it's a nonsense point, but if you have to compare it in terms of skill set, the reputation of Jadeja for a long time was always that of a really good lieutenant in a team, but never necessarily someone who screams out leadership qualities. With due respect to Jaddu, and I think we don't even need to mince our words about it because you saw how the graph played out very seamlessly. He found himself at home just being the batter bowler fielder that he is. Even though he's played for India for so many years, Jadeja has never been the conversation of interim captain, vice captain, stand-in captain, because certain players either don't lend themselves to the position, and that reputation comes through franchise and international management. And the fact that that Axar is seen as somebody who can still carry everybody and pull them in one direction, I think that augurs well for him. It's a good time in the IPL when you talk about brand value versus the kind of guy that a team wants leading. I think it started with Gaikwad a couple of seasons ago, Patidar at RCB. Now, when you picked up KL Rahul, the easiest thing would have been, yeah, KL's the big brand. Let's name him captain. But I think franchises are drawing a line between, yeah, who they will use in terms of, yeah, good player, solid player, big brand value. But this is our better option tactically, someone who will work with the teams and their plans, and has now got enough stature within the Indian cricket community, in the Indian cricket team to work with the youngsters too. So I don't see it inconsistent at all. I think it's a nice time. It's a nice point that franchises are now looking at who their best tactical options are. And that's where I think it's all speculation. That's where I think they've narrowed down on Axar ahead of a KL Rahul.
Also, you look at the history of the franchise, Delhi's last two captains were also young Indian players. Like when they gave Pant the captaincy, when they gave Shreyas the captaincy, they were also young. They weren't like the stature that they are now.
Worth adding just before closing the thread on Axar that when we talk about his captaincy credentials, he did get a big endorsement from the national selectors because he was recently named vice captain of India's T20I side for their most recent assignment.
And he was a vice captain at Capitals.
And very different, very different character, very different personality from Jadeja. If you look at sort of Delhi Capitals dressing room footage and stuff, he's like a very lively guy, well liked in the team. It looks like so very different personality.
Okay, let's move on to contender number 2, Faf du Plessis.
Given a choice to me, I would probably appoint Faf as the captain and then have somebody else they want to as the vice captain.
I mean, you could have JFM and Faf opening because in terms of overseas spots, obviously Stark and Stubbs are guaranteed overseas spots.
Yeah.
Then you can have JFM and Faf.
KL is a big player in this team, and we've seen that KL needs to, his best returns have been at the top, unless there is some kind of buy-in. And I use this term because Nagaraj loves buy-ins now. It's like used on chatter so often. It's solved the world problems. Yeah, it solved all the problems of the world buy-in. So if KL buys in that, okay, I don't mind in this new team, new setup, I will bat in the middle order or I'll bat at 3, then that becomes a conversation. I thought the team sets up really nicely with Rahul and Fraser McGurk at the top. Faf is a great guy to have in the squad, right? But I take RCB's logic that they were looking at a 3-year cycle and they didn't necessarily think at the start of that 3-year cycle, they would be going with Faf. I don't think Faf is a first choice captain. I think he'll be a leader. I'll use the RCB line of Kohli that he doesn't need to be given the captaincy to be a leader. So he will continue to be a leader, and that's where I see Faf's role.
After Bayern, now it's not just leaders; it's the leadership group. Like Venki Iyer is now at KKR.
I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. They should call them the small council, and they should be like one by one. They should all have like roles or like a pin or something, and then we'll know who's responsible. But anyway.
I mean, I'm interested in knowing what is the conversation on KL, and maybe we should ask Nagraj. Like, what do you know of? Oh, actually, I think maybe we should ask Ronak, being someone who is now very close to KL Rahul. What are KL's own aspirations? What are KL's own aspirations? Does he want to be an IPL captain, or is he like at a point in his life where he's saying, "Let me focus on my batting"?
Firstly, I can't focus on this conversation because Nagaraj is like Harvey Dent in Dark Knight. He's got like Harvey Two-Face. Nagaraj, can you come on one side of the sun or the other side of the sun, please? Yeah, thank you.
Chashma pehen lena.
Yeah, literally, Nagaraj is like an eclipse. I'm watching a real eclipse.
Hey, give him some glasses, man.
I had an interview with KL not so long back, and I genuinely felt that here's a guy who's reflected deeply on where he doesn't fit into India's T20 plans and why. And I genuinely think that this is going to be a season that we may see the best of him. Again, like I said, we're recording this at a time where he just played a really good innings after the Champions Trophy semi-final. And there's something about KL that you feel that kind of ability it's not going to amount to just what we've seen right now. There is going to come that season where he will have nothing to lose and play like that. So, in keeping with that thought, I think it's a smart decision. A, for the franchise to not look at him as a first choice captain, and B, I wouldn't mind if KL, I wouldn't be surprised if KL also says, I'm okay if you have somebody else. I'll do it if you want me to do it. But it's not at that stage where a lot of players were, I'll only play if I'm captain. I think it'll all add up to KL not being captain, part of the leadership group, as Nagaraj likes to point out. But I think not having the burden of captaincy at a new franchise, opportunity to breathe some new life in his T20 career will be great for KL. So I don't want to see him anywhere near the
And
administrative rigmarole of captaincy.
and if Virat is not captain and he's part of the leadership group, then I think KL will also be
Poor
inclined to
does
go in
That's
that
poor. That's
direction.
a cheap shot. Very cheap.
Why?
I think his point to prove for himself would be to play as a top order role and uh, play at a good strike
Yeah.
rate. I mean, that's been the question. That's been his challenge. And from what little or what knowledge I have, I don't think KL wants to do captaincy. I
Yeah.
The question for me for KL would be, and we don't be just I'm just mentioning it, would whether he will keep or not. If he keeps, I think, and if you have someone like an Axar as a captain, probably that might work well because remember that Axar has lost a very not just a very good pal, but a very good thinking brain or someone who supported him from behind the wickets in
Yeah.
Rishabh Pant. So
Yeah.
he
I mean,
needs that, and a keeper.
they do have a
And
lot of options. They do have
yeah,
Abhishek Porel, who will
Yeah.
likely make
yeah.
an 11.
So
Yeah, there is that.
that's why
Okay.
KL will play that role. So yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's
All
a
right.
toss up between two people. KL, not KL, Faf and Axar.
Okay. So since you've started us off, give me one name,
Axar.
Ronak.
Yeah, sure. I also think when they bought KL, I think a lot of us were very surprised he ended up at DC. I think we were all looking elsewhere in the auction, thinking RCB make the strongest case.
RCB.
And there
Yeah.
were other franchises that were screaming and shouting out more for that captaincy candidate, keeper, Indian batter, and all. But we were a bit surprised by him going to DC. So I think even DC to some degree, like, okay, cool, we got him. Great. Really good player experience and all. But I don't think the captaincy thought came in there. And I think everything that we will see happen with DC will be consistent with that and whatever I've said about KL. So I see no real. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Axar very soon.
All right. Final vote, Dustin.
I actually really like the initial idea of Nagraj as Delhi Capitals captain. He's already wearing the red and blue, or at least leadership group. But failing that, Axar Patel as Delhi Capitals captain, Bapu as captain.
Yeah, and I'd vote for Nagraj if I could. Okay.
Has he got
All right.
lucky
Kya
written on
chala,
his t-shirt?
Bapu?
Has he got
They need the luck.
he's got lucky on his t-shirt.
All right. That does it. This was Chatter.